Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to discuss growth mindset and how it can be used as a tool to improve at anything you do, no matter how bad you are, no matter how impossible you believe your task is or your goal is. If you feel like you've struggled to tackle a certain problem or goal and you find yourself failing constantly and you have absolutely no idea why, this information will indeed help you. Let's start with what is growth mindset? Well, I'll tell you what it isn't. But first, let's start with a little backstory on who founded it, where it was founded. Basically, a psychologist named Dr. Carol Dweck. She founded this concept, and she has spent her entire life studying, learning, and how to improve. So I'll start with what growth mindset is not. Basically, the contrast of a growth mindset is a fixed mindset. The belief that no matter what inputs you give, you're always going to get the same output. Basically, the idea that something is not for you because you suck at it or you're insecure or whatever, if you've ever felt that kind of thought pattern, then this is what I'm talking about. If you have this mindset, then most likely you identify with your ego. There's a good chance that you believe things like you are smart, you are talented, and not that that's a bad thing, most likely because you've been told that your entire life. But those traits, in order to understand what those traits mean, we need to understand where they come from. Being smart and being talented is a consequence of effort you put in, unless it is genetic. Which in most people's cases, it is not simply genetic. Intelligence isn't just genetic. Neuroscience has figured that out. That neuroplasticity is an incredible concept and our brains can adapt to anything. Basically, if you're having this problem, you likely identify with your ego a lot and you've unconsciously been carrying this belief your entire life. I specifically had this in computer science and I still kind of struggle to put myself out and learn things like Angular because I'm a little bit afraid of failing and some fucked up weird part of me wants to preserve my ego. I know it sounds fucking insane, but this is the situation we find ourselves in. What happens when you're told you're smart and talented is that your identity is being reinforced, not the actual effort that you put in order to achieve such a compliment. So this is very important to note. There was actually a study back in the day, I believe Dr. Carol Dweck ran it. There was a set of children, there was a control group, there was a set of children that were told they were smart, talented, all this type of stuff. Basically things they had no control over that would reinforce their identity, and then there was a group which would be told that their effort was incredible, their persistence was incredible, and the findings were incredible. The kids who identified with their ego, who were told that they were smart, actually performed worse in the long term in an effort to preserve their ego and identity instead of actually performing better on the task itself. They valued their ego more than they valued the actual performance. And the incredible thing with the group that was told that their effort was amazing and reinforced their attempts and such, their persistence, they actually performed drastically better. And it was the case that when they had difficult problems to solve, they were more likely to engage in those problems than the group that was told that they were smart. Isn't that fucking crazy? To supplement this, let's actually define growth mindset now. Growth mindset is basically the belief that you are responsible for 99.99999% of circumstances. You can do better no matter what in almost every single situation. And I was going to say something else, but I'll continue. Basically, the idea that if something doesn't work out, it is indeed something that you can tweak in order to adjust the output. Now, if you know a little bit about math or science, or you've taken computer science, you understand that computers function in this way where you have an input, you have a specific set of outputs. Simple as that. Universe works in the same way, our brain works in the same exact way. We are technically computers, right? We have inputs and outputs. This is so powerful because it reinforces the idea that you have control over things that can go wrong, variables that cause you to fail at your mission. It is completely under your control. This throws out the idea that you can't do anything about it, which already gets you a foot in the right direction. I discovered this by accident when I was maybe 14, 15, and then I really started building upon it as I got older and my brain developed. I discovered this by accident by playing video games and trying to improve my rank and rating. I was really trying to get to Platinum in League of Legends. And I was trying to get Gladiator in WoW, and after all these years, now here we are with all of this information and having achieved those things. I know that sounds silly. Platinum fucking sucks nowadays and all that. So I discovered this without actually knowing the concept for it, but it turns out there is an actual concept for it, and it is coined growth mindset. I just want to mention, and this is, I'm sorry if this sounds like some absolute asshole shit, but given that initial statement that growth mindset is the definition that growth mindset is basically having the belief that you could do better in 99.99% of circumstances, I just wanted to say, odds are we are not in that 0.01%. We are not special, and we are just making excuses in order to preserve our ego. Keep that in mind, because that is essentially what is driving the entire problem. I have an example of this because if you've ever done LeetCode or you tried to do hard or medium problems on that shit, or you tried to learn something like Angular, something difficult that takes a lot of time and effort, and you thought to yourself, what the fuck am I actually looking at? What is on my screen here? Well, with this growth mindset mentality, you can actively take steps to improve your performance versus trying to protect your ego and keeping yourself thinking you are smart, despite taking actions that actually completely undermine the fact that you are indeed smart, right? Or you identify as smart, however you want to go about wording that sentence. This is interesting and worth noting because you need three main things, and I'm gonna throw this in here because this is something powerful I've learned about achieving goals. In order to achieve goals effectively and obsess over and get the best results, I've noticed three key things, okay? So first thing, which potentially may not be the most powerful, but is usually what we initially fantasize about, is what are you going to get when you actually achieve the work toward your goal? Secondly, you should be thinking about what are you going to miss out on if you do not achieve your goal. Now, this is powerful because if you know anything about human nature and you get emotional off of some bullshit, then you know humans are damn good at FOMOing over absolutely fucking nothing. And the last idea necessary for thriving while working on a goal is you're going to need a lot of focus and discipline. This can mean years worth of time investment into your goal. If you want to get a really, really good job, Jordan B. Peterson said this himself, for his fucked up, not all, but for some of his fucked up clients, he would suggest your life is in ruin. Spend the next 2 years persistently sending out applications with the understanding that you're going to have 99.9% rejection rate. Don't expect a thing. Okay, now that we've discussed growth mindset and that tool for achieving your goals, those three key things that you can basically obsess over that will help push you in the right direction, I want to just say that the second tool can be used to get the big picture and form a strategy and understand what that goal actually means to you, how far you're willing to go for it. And you use the first tool of growth mindset in order to understand that you will improve at anything no matter how hard it is, given progressive overload. That's the key, progressive overload. If you do a ton of work, if you binge for 4 hours in one session, you burn yourself out and you cannot sustain that, and you end up having to take a step back for a week because you overworked yourself. That is not what I'm talking about. Progressive overload in a sustainable manner, this will get you improving. Even if you're god awful, it does not matter. You will improve to a respectable level within anywhere between 3 months to a year of consistent practice. I can tell you this because I used to be fucking anorexic, and it literally took me like 9 months to look like a respectable human. You could do that shit too, man. No matter how dire the situation looks. If you get knocked off the horse, and this is going to happen, you will get knocked off the horse, and you see yourself performing not to the best of your ability, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. This is one of the most important steps in actually trying to achieve your goals, because you're never going to consistently win hundreds of times in a row. If you did that, then you'd just explode exponentially by the 10th time. That's just not how it works. It is going to be the case that you're going to take baby steps. You'll get knocked down a little bit. Take more baby steps. Knocked down. What is important is that you're keeping an uptrend, which means higher highs and new low. It is very important that you don't do an incredible high and then spike down to the same exact low and stay at a baseline. That is not what we want. What's happening when you fuck up and you don't want to do stuff is your ego was hurt. This identity that you had of yourself, it doesn't fit in with the reality of what you're capable of and the standard that you're performing to. I just wanted to say, at this point, it's critical to detach from the ego and the outcome through things like meditation, grounding, basically exercise a little bit and you'll be good. Run a little bit. You'll certainly stop with the ego bullshit. In these situations, it's okay when your ego takes over. Just understand that you are being overwhelmed by negative emotions, and this is the point where you are most likely to fall back to plateauing at 0 or the same level you've been at. So just keep that in mind. When that happens, it's okay to decompress for like a day or two to pick up the pieces of your shattered ego, depending on how... This is important. The time to decompress is relative to the... Let me think about this. Okay. The time to decompress is relative to the intensity of the failure that you experience. So that how intense the failure that you experienced will indeed determine how long you spend emotional and in a shitty state. For me, at this point, it's about a day or less than a day. I can kick myself in high gear in about less than a day. If you did something like you lost a job, it might take you a month. That's what happened with me. So be very patient. Be kind to yourself. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Like, your ego is already just on some other shit with being harsh to yourself. So it's fine to decompress, but you need to have a plan. You need to have it in the back of your mind. Okay, maybe today I'm going to chill. Maybe today I'm going to play video games and turn off my emotional circuitry so that I can kind of bounce back and go ham tomorrow. But you need to have it in the back of your mind that you understand that after X amount of time, you're going to get back in the saddle and attack aggressively. You're going to fuck that setback over. That shit, you're going to crush it. Because that's energy. You will need to do strategy, though. And that strategy will probably involve understanding that you suck, being okay with the fact that you suck, and honestly embracing the fact that you suck, and understanding that because you suck, even the slightest bit of progress that you make now is actually going to be dramatic as fuck. In a year, you'll look back and be like, I can't believe I didn't start this sooner. It's usually what happens. Don't let your ego control you. That's important. Just to reiterate really quick, we're not God's gift. Our ego is going to play us up to be this incredible person who is not capable of failure, and it's going to protect us at all costs from witnessing failure. But maybe it's okay to suck at things. Maybe it's okay to need to improve. And what's actually awesome about needing to improve is any small step that you take, despite your emotions and your ego, is going to lead to you being objectively better and actually fulfill that idea, whatever you're identifying with. So if you think you're an athlete, if you go to the gym and train, the actions speak for themselves. You don't need to justify that in your brain. You just simply go to the gym when nobody's looking, and it works out. I'm going to leave you all on this last note, because if you've ever tried to do something and achieve something that is really, really, really difficult, like maybe in my case, for me, it was learn tech or learn the squat properly or get really good with pull-ups. It's a process. You need to get quality sleep in order for your brain to form those connections, those neural connections for the task that you're doing, so that the next day you wake up, it's actually like unironically 10 times easier to do what you're doing, because it feels like muscle memory and you are slowly getting better and better over time. So to reiterate everything really quick, growth mindset, you can improve no matter how much you suck. I know your ego does not want you to believe that. A fixed mindset is basically when your ego and emotions control you and you don't think that you can improve despite any efforts, which is just flat out false. It's not how improvement and learning works. Next, we've got a point about goals. Focus on what you will achieve. Like for me, it was I really want to get buff and have a six-pack. Focus on what you will miss out. For me, it was I can't sit here okay with the fact that I can possibly waste my genetic potential. And it's actually crazy. I'm 25 now. In the last year, I've recognized that, oh shit, I actually have I have some fucking great ass genetics for bodybuilding. And I would have never known that had I not gotten off my ass and thought about what I would be missing out on. Lastly, for this step, you need a lot of focus and discipline. You develop discipline over time by simply doing the task despite your ego kicking at you, not wanting to do it. Those are the two main things I wanted to discuss. If you get knocked off the horse, it's okay. The growth mindset allows you to understand that it's okay to suck, and you will improve no matter what steps you take, as long as you're trying to progressively overload. This is true in the gym. This is true with learning. If you want to get a job, sending out applications, getting a girlfriend, talking to people out on the streets, you name it. And the last thing I wanted to say is sleep on it. It is very important to sleep on it. Your brain needs time to form the connections in the back of your mind so that you can do things way more easily. If you've ever tried to catch a football for the first time and it sucked, you will understand what I'm talking about, because odds are you probably woke up the next day or a week later and you did it again and it was a little bit easier. And then if you do that enough times, you actually get some impeccable results. That's all, everyone. Take care.